Hi, I'm Marcel James, and this is my unboxing and review of the new Antelope Discrete 4 SC or Synergy Core 4-channel interface. I'm very familiar with the original Discrete 4 with its onboard discrete console-grade mic preamps, its FPGA processing, and its great sounding converters at an affordable price. So I'm very curious to see where Antelope has taken this product with its new update. First, let's take a look at some of the new features for Discrete 4 SC.
The first new addition to the Discrete 4 Synergy Core is that Antelope has added two new DSP processing chips, in addition to FPGA-powered proprietary Antelope effects. So now Antelope can power third-party effects that were previously not compatible with the FPGA platform. This opens up a whole new world of sub-millisecond low-latency plugins to run on dedicated DSP that will be great for tracking and even live use without putting any strain on your host computer. They haven't yet announced the new plugins that will be offered for this technology, but I've heard they are significant, and they've been in talks with several top-shelf plugin developers already. As someone who uses the Antelope FPGA effects all the time on my own mastering, I'm personally quite excited to start reaping the benefits of even more dedicated processing effects for my own work. The other big news is that the effects stacks have been expanded from 4 effects per channel to now up to 8 effects on each stack for a total of up to 32 effects. This is in line with the other interfaces in their lineup and raises the bar of value for entry-level customers. The conversion for Discrete 4 SC is 121 dB for A to D and DA monitoring conversion. The lineouts are 118 dB, but feature a significant update as well, and that these lineouts are now DC coupled. DC-coupled converters usually boast a more solid-feeling low end, and they interface best with modular synthesizers, so that's going to be a very welcome addition for a lot of customers. The unit arrived well-packed and double-boxed, with sufficient bubble wrap inside to cushion the product well. The first thing you find are the warranty card and a feature and compatibility card that includes a single link to the online startup guide. The product box inside has form-fitting foam and plastic covering the interface to keep dust and shipping particles away from the unit itself. There is an external power supply with a heavy-duty IEC cable and a USB cable. The power supply is no longer the type that you must plug in directly to the outlet, as this one is the inline type. This will be a welcome sight to users with racked power strips that don't always have room for power adapters, and also will prevent the adapter from slipping out of the outlets, so I view this as a nice change indeed. Once out of the plastic, the unit feels immediately heavy-duty and solid. The 2 inputs on the front can accept mic, line, or instrument sources. Also on the front is a display screen, 3 function control buttons, a volume knob, and 4 headphone outputs. I still can't recall any other interface with this many headphone jacks. On the back are SPDIF I/O and ADAT I/O, meaning this unit has much more connectivity than the 4 in its name would imply. It's also got 2 word clock outputs, so it's clear that the D4SC can function as the hub of a larger studio setup, as well as easily travel well as a mobile studio. There are stereo monitor outputs in addition to the 4 DC-coupled lineouts, so again, the name having a 4 is kind of underselling the capabilities here. There are 2 more XLR combo jacks for mic or line level use. There are both USB and Thunderbolt ports, both compatible with Windows and Mac computers. And the power input is a screw-on type, also adding some security against accidental unplugging. Somehow, Antelope makes maximal use of the front and back space of their devices without them feeling cluttered. Next, let's take a look at the software included with the Discrete 4 SC. To get started, the first thing I did was navigate to the provided link antelopeaudio.com/d4-sc-start and followed the simple steps they provided. Having everything I would need on one page with a single link to install all required software made everything very simple. This company has clearly taken a lot of steps to remove the guesswork out of getting started. I got the software installed and the unit activated quickly and painlessly. Most aspects of the control panel that you will need to interface with are immediately viewable on the main mixer screen. On the top left, you can select the clock source and clock rate. And on the top right, you can save or load all of your panel settings, which is convenient for creating different song or workflow setups. On the left side of the panel, you can toggle between the 4 mixers. Mixer 1 is shared by the monitor outs and headphone 1, each having their own volume knobs at the bottom of the panel. Headphones 2 through 4 have their own mixers and volume controls. In the preamps section towards the top, you click on the icons to toggle between the various input source types, instrument, line, or microphones. Raise the level of the input volume here, but remember, for monitoring, you will also need to bring up the fader for those channels in the mixer. Click on the blank area to the right of AFX to open up the effects panels. Here you can stack up to 8 different effects for each of the 4 preamps. I'll get more into the various effects shortly. It's also good to keep in mind that you can expand the view of the mixer from 8 to 16 inputs. Sources for the mixer can be the 4 preamps, the digital inputs, the computer audio channels, and even a test tone oscillator for calibrating to outboard gear if needed. Just below the preamp section, the control panel can also display level meters for the digital outs, level meters and trim controls for the analog outs, and level meters for the DAW playback channels. So right now I have some headphones on. I have a dynamic mic connected to input number 1. You can see the levels moving on number 1. I've toggled this input icon to where it says microphone, and I've turned up my preamp level. To about 50 is good for most dynamics, give or take. And then I've raised this monitor level so that I can hear myself over the mixer. Turned up the headphone volume right here. And I've muted the monitor outs. Now I don't have monitors connected, but I wanted to show you how a typical setup for recording voice would go for you. You can see I have levels here on number 1. Now if I'm singing or performing over some other background music or overdubbing a voice, that audio would be playing from the DAW here on computer channels 1 and 2. These are mono, so the left channel is panned to the left and to the right. If I want to play more computer channels than just 1 or 2 playback, I can add those. I can add up to 16 of those on the other monitor channels, and I can, as I showed you before, expand the mixer for more channels. So I can really have a lot of flexibility, but it's still the layout is very simple and easy to navigate. Now I want to start adding some effects to my voice, and I'll click on this area to the right of AFX above channel 1. I can add the default EQ, the included Antelope EQ, which is clear Q, or compressor, or a gate. If I was going to gate out, this will gate everything below a certain threshold. So if I had a guitar connected and I wanted to gate out some of the line noise from the guitar input, I could turn down this threshold here and use that gate for this. It's also handy for synthesizers that sometimes have some fuzzy line noise, for some vintage synthesizers. The first one I'm going to start with is an expander. Turn up the range a bit, and then I'm just going to raise this threshold a little bit. It's all it really needs, 1.2, 1.3 for voice. I'll use 1.2 just to push down some of the computer fan noise. And what the expander does is it compresses everything below a threshold, not gating it, but just compressing it, so that you push down that background noise. And it's really handy for things like voice. I use it all the time now for voiceover work, just to push down some of the computer fan noise in the room. Next thing I'll go down here to compressors, to EQs. And there are some passive style EQs. These are really good for smoothing things out. I'll turn that up to 4K. I'll attenuate here, and you hear that cutting right away, but I'll also boost. So it boosts one curve and cuts another and just gives you a very present but smooth, warm analog sound. I'll turn up the bandwidth to widen that. Now you hear that engage a little more, and suddenly I sound like Mr. Voiceover. And I'll do the same thing to smooth out some of the lows. So attenuate and a bit of boost. So it's called a boost cut EQ. So when I turn that off, yes, I have more presence, but it's not quite as analog sounding or as warm. And that matters more. I'll show you in a moment when I add a compressor. So after EQs, there are the compressors. There are some different types. These are feed forward compression. First couple I'll show you. And then you get a couple tube options as well. The Stay 11, I'm going to use the A76. I'm going to need to turn up my output. Turn that up there. And now I've got fast attack, fast release. Usually works pretty well for voice. Sometimes you want to slow that release down if you want it to hang on a little longer. I like it around there. And if I turn off that, I have an extra compressor added. That's easy to remove, by the way, a couple of them. So all I really need is three things. I've got now the expander, and I've got the EQ. Now if I turn off that EQ, now you can hear that there's a lot more mid presence in the voice, and can get a little rough. So if I want to smooth that over, there you go. You have that EQ. So you hear what it's doing more after the compression is engaged. And all of this is real time. As you heard, there's no lag, no delay, no latency. So I can monitor that, and I'm going to record anything that's turned on of these effects. It's also going to get printed or recorded. So now what I'm going to do is show you AFX to DAW. If you purchase the optional AFX to DAW plugin, you can have access to all of these effects inside the DAW as well. So I'm going to show you that next. So now I've got my DAW open, and I've got some different voice tracks I recorded for this video. And I'm just going to open up the AFX to DAW plugin, which is optional for the Discrete 4 SC. And then I can instantiate any of those effects that were in the control panel and run them right inside the DAW with delay compensation, just as I would any other plugin. Another cool thing I can do is click the load button, and I will need to go back to the control panel, as you'll see it sort of flashing at me, and I can load one of the recently used. In this case, I saved that stack. So that same VO stack I saved in the control panel, I just need to know that I'm running AFX5 here in the DAW, so I load that stack into AFX5. And now I've recalled that same effect setup. So you can work back and forth with the plugin you like, work in real time on the FPGA or in the DAW plugin as well. As you can see now, I have a different looking microphone and a different sounding microphone. This is the Edge Duo. Antelope has a family of modeling microphones, the Edge Solo, the Duo, and the Quadro. The Solo has one capsule. The Duo has two capsules so that it can capture off-axis and also different polar patterns of the different microphone models. And the Quadro actually has four capsules. So what you do is you just connect the two cables for the Duo into the Discrete 4 SC or another Antelope interface. And then if you look up here where you see just below the icon for the microphone, there's a little gear icon. And now, as you can see, I've selected the Edge Duo, and all of those models are available to me. I can just use the Duo in itself, and I can control the polar patterns in the room, or I can select, in this case, the 800T, 47 FET microphone, a 67, 87. Here's a ribbon microphone, much different on voice, but with some EQ, you can really bring this to life and create a very warm sounding recording. It's great for electric guitars, amplifiers, and things like horn instruments. Here's the M103, a tube microphone, the 49T, another ribbon microphone, the 121, the 57, and the famous 12 microphone. I like the 800T on my voice for VO work a lot, and this is modeled after a $10,000 liquid-cooled microphone. So it's pretty cool that you've got the access to all of these mic models built in. It's like unlocking a whole different world of capabilities by picking up the Edge. What you get with the Edge is the microphone, you get the code to activate all of these models, and you also get a plugin to run in the DAW. So as you can see here, I'm monitoring and I'm also recording the emulation mic, but I can also record just the preamp if I want, or both, and then I can change the model with the plugin during the mix. So if I decide to use a different one or to stack different ones on top of each other, I can do that when mixing. I can also now in real time as well, and all these models in the FPGA are running in real time, so I can hear them live, but I can also start adding effects. And if you remember that stack I had earlier, I can just select that, load it up, and now I'm running the model, an EQ, a compressor, an expander to push down some of that background noise. So really a lot of capabilities in real time available with the Discrete 4 SC.
So to summarize my review of the Discrete 4 Synergy Core, it's an amazing sounding interface. I think sound quality alone, the price, is almost inconsequential. You could have charged double what this interface goes for, and it would be a great value because of the feature set and because of the sound quality of the D4 SC. And I think that was the most surprising part for me, even knowing it's an Antelope interface, how good this entry-level interface sounds now, that it's right on par with their higher-end interfaces as well, was a bit surprising to me, to be honest. The mic pre's are absolutely stellar. Again, the I/O, the feature set, the sound quality of the headphone output. I mean, just listening to music sounds great on it. I've recorded my voice now for off and on for 30 years, and it's as good as I've ever sounded, just plugging even the dynamic microphone, and then when you went to the Edge, things just really just burst out into detail and even a bigger sound. But I could do a lot of damage just with this and a dynamic mic and a laptop. There's no question about it. I like the onboard effects a lot, the convenience of them, the multiple mixers, the headphone outputs, the expandability, the concept of keeping the software straightforward and simple, but also expandable. The ability to expand it into the DAW with the plugins, with AFX to DAW, adding the modeling microphones, and I should have mentioned the Verge as well, which is a small condenser microphone that they have as well that's compatible with this. You just buy the microphone, you activate the features inside the unit and install the plugin, and you're off and running. The plugins for the mics also do run in the DAW, so it really is something that can start off very simple but get very deep and very complex. Love that they added more stacks, because sometimes I did find 4 effects to be a little limiting. I'm a little greedy there. I wanted more effects, 5, 6, 7, especially that there's no stack tax to pay. You don't get extra latency, and there's no sound degradation from adding the effects. I think it's very cool, and they're unique in that they have USB and Thunderbolt and multiple platforms, Mac and PC, with one interface. It makes the purchase decision quite easy. Love that they've got their word clock outputs out on this, the screw-on convenient power supply. The line outs now are very cool. The fact that you've got, I mean, this is just so much more than a 4, calling it a discrete 4, because, it's got the 6 outputs, it's got all of the digital connectivity. So it's a great interface. What else can you say about it? Expandable, sounds fantastic. It's heavy, but very small. So packs quite a bit of value for your investment. The Discrete 4 Synergy Core, new from Antelope Audio.